Hello gorgeous soul friends, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Hannah, welcome to my channel, and it's such an honor to be a part of your wondrous earth experience today. So today we're going to be talking about the esoteric origins of the sun. And those of you who are interested in tarot and astrology may already know about the archetype of the sun and know it as a symbol of life, illumination, happiness, positivity, expansion. However, there is so much more to the fatherly celestial body than we can even put into verbal language. The sun is commonly seen as a symbol of immortality, and this is because of its cycle throughout the day, rising and setting just to rise again the very next morning. The origin of the Trinity is actually an observation of the daily manifestations of the sun, rising, midday, and setting. Now, the philosophers observed this and basically divided life into three distinct phases because of this. So they've divided life into growth, maturity, and decay. So the sun has three distinct phases, and these three distinct phases are meant to parallel the phases that a human goes through in life. And according to esoteric philosophy, the color blue is the true and sacred color of the sun, and the apparent orange-yellow shade is just a result of its rays being immersed in the substances of the illusory world, which are atmospheric gases. It's similar to the vast array of crystal colors that are created entirely dependent upon how light passes through the mineral, which rays of light pass through the mineral. In fact, gold itself is the metal of the sun and has often been considered crystallized sunlight. So molecules affect the way light is expressed. You know, why would we be any different? We are mineral beings ourselves. So our sun is partially responsible for the color and pigmentation of our skin. It's not the only reason, but it is partially responsible for it. And of course, the material manifestation of this is the production of melanin. Now in India, certain gods, specifically attributes of Vishnu, are depicted with blue skin in order to signify their divine and supermundane constitution. And I also have another theory that these gods are just highly initiated humans who evolved into a different blood composition. They eventually evolved to obtain a different blood composition, giving their skin the blue-green pigment that you not only see on Hindu gods, but many ET sightings report beings with gray, blue, or green skin. And a very famous example of this is James Cameron's Avatar. You know, the beings have blue skin. And notably, the term blue blood is often used to refer to nobility and higher status. So it's really interesting, the parallels and correlations that we have going on here. The hemoglobin, which is responsible for skin color partially, is the pigmented part of our blood, and it contains iron, which is why our blood turns red when it's exposed to oxygen. And when you look at your veins, I don't know if you can see mine in the camera, but I have warm undertones, so I have green veins. Your veins are actually blue or green depending upon whether you have cool or warm undertones. So, you know, blood is actually blue before it meets oxygen. However, oxygen transfer in living beings can be carried out by ions of other metals, specifically copper. In the blood of cephalopods, mollusks, octopi, cuttlefish, the pigment hemocyanin is based in copper, which makes the blood of these creatures blue. So the main color of the skin in these creatures is typically gray, blue to green, or, you know, other cool tone shades depending upon what the creature is. And there are also many occultists that believe the iron-based composition of our blood is responsible for why we age. You know, our finite form continually oxidizes and decays over time, which, you know, is why many foods that are often recommended for optimal health contain antioxidants. Many of these same occultists argue that as we evolve in consciousness, the composition of our form changes, including our blood, allowing us to progressively live longer and longer and longer, potentially even altering the color of our skin. But that's a topic for a whole other video. Let's get back to the sun. So our sun is part of a finely interlinked system of suns that communicate with one another through a solar language or light language. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the light language activations that you see on YouTube. There are many people that claim to speak light language. If you're familiar with Christianity's faith, they call it speaking in tongues. It's the same thing. Essentially, what light language channelers are doing is they are pulling in this cosmic light language from the sun and translating it into something verbal. So they are simply speaking the sun's language. They are translating the language of the suns. And each sun projects its very own frequency of light ether that is reflected and materialized into you. So we exist in a hologram of light that has been compressed and densified into appearing solid. Matter is just an illusion. But the light of our sun is not the only light that influences our materialization. Larger and stronger suns from other solar systems are also influencing the evolution of matter. Since, each sun projects its very own unique expression and frequency of light. So not only are we influenced by the light of our own sun, our materialization is influenced by the light of many other suns in distant galaxies, because light can travel very far, guys. And this is why the Egyptians worship the sun as a god, because it's the very reason we can even exist on planet Earth. They believe that their souls came through the sun, and if you look at the etymology of the word sun, specifically in the Romance languages, soul is sun. S-O-L, soul is sun. So to them, it is the source of our soul. It is the source of where our soul came from. And the great benefic teachers of every era are simply humans who have fine-tuned themselves so precisely to be in coherence with their soul, to be in coherence with Mother Earth, to be in coherence with the sun, that their soul is able to maintain more light from the sun. Because we are receiving light all the time, and the people who are doing the inner work, they're doing the shadow work, they're able to take in more light. They're able to hold and retain more light from the sun. And you can see this in pictures of holy figures such as Jesus, Mary, all of that, and I'll list some pictures around here so you can see. But at one point, we would have been able to physically see the light emanating from these people's bodies. We would have been able to physically see who these people were. But because of the fact that we have disconnected from that part of self collectively, these people are still walking amongst us. It's just not everybody can see them anymore. Some people can. If you fine-tune your ESP, you're able to see the light emanating off of these people, these solar beings. But many people cannot see this anymore. And just like the sun magnetizes planets to revolve around it, the more a person begins to embody their solar energy, people will feel magnetized to them. Because we are just a microscopic version of the macroscopic. As above, so below. We are mini planets. We are just mineral bodies, and we have our own magnetism as well. Just like the planets have their own gravitational pull, we also have our own microscopic gravitational pull that magnetizes people and experiences into our life. So this is why you often see empaths and people who are highly awakened. They'll often magnetize people to them who need their assistance, or they'll magnetize people who want to learn from them. A perfect example is Jesus and his 12 disciples. He was embodying the solar energy, and therefore he magnetized other mineral bodies to be in his orbit. So once again, we were able to see the light emanating off of people, almost as if people had a halo of light. Their own sun rays would come out of their body from their auric field. And if you haven't already seen my video on auras, I have one. I'll list it somewhere around here so you can go watch that whenever you'd like. But I go a little more in depth about this and how the auric field is something that can be seen with a trained eye. Even though we can't necessarily see the light that's emanating from these people anymore, that light still manifests. It still translates now more so into an action-oriented structure. So their light will translate and express itself through the deeds that they do for the earth and for humanity. The light is still there, it's still present. The solar humans are still here, and they're expressing their light through action. So those who have this solar light often immortalize themselves in the collective memory. All of the great spiritual masters that have birthed forth all the various religions, and the genuine philanthropists who have impermeated themselves on our collective awareness, even thousands of years after their deaths, are perfect examples of immortalization. And Coco by Pixar depicts a wonderful example of this. When somebody is forgotten, their essence literally decays and ceases to exist. So the whole purpose of the Dia de los Muertos holiday is to remember the essence of those who hold importance to us, so that they live on in the collective database of memory that we're all interlinked to. And the sun is a stargate. It leads human consciousness, this collective database of memory, into 5D. You know, and 5D is just the awareness of the eternal now. It is simply the awareness of time and space and matter being an illusion, and recognizing that all is self, all is mind. That is 5D consciousness. That's all it is. It's not really this whole like ooh-woo, new age kind of thing that a lot of hippies make it out to be. It is a real thing, and there is validity to 5D awareness. But again, it is simply the awareness of the eternal now. The awareness that time, space is an illusion, matter is an illusion, and all is mind. This is the consciousness that was associated with humanity before we devolved into animal consciousness. And again, I talk about this in my Secret Human Origins video. If you're having a hard time grasping what I'm saying right now, I highly recommend you go watch that first and then come back to this video. Because when we evolve in consciousness, we evolve in density. And, you know, this happens when we devolve as well. And as I mentioned in my video about interdimensionals, evolution occurs in a wave form. So in order to master ourselves, we needed a dip in consciousness. We needed to devolve in order to develop the mind. Because we didn't have mind before we devolved in consciousness, before we became animal beings. We didn't have a mind. We were simply spiritual feminine beings. We lacked rationale. We were mindless. So this is the whole purpose of this de-evolution process, was to basically develop the mind. And now that we've developed that, the rationale, the discernment, the reason, we've developed that, and we're going back up in consciousness with that. And we're bringing it back to that spiritual awareness. So we're going back to the consciousness that we had before when we were in Lemuria, when we were in Atlantis, but we're going back to that consciousness with rationale, with reason, with discernment, so that we can do a better job than before. We can enter this golden age of humanity and maintain it a lot better than we did before. Now, let's talk a little bit about Lucifer, because this kind of has a part to play in what I'm talking about here. Lucifer is considered the light bearer because the whole purpose of Lucifer is to empower and bring rise to the inner sun, which is the solar plexus chakra. It's the chakra affiliated with discernment, it's the chakra affiliated with reason, it's the chakra affiliated with willpower. However, too much Luciferian energy can make one extremely selfish, since the sun represents the self. Too much of this energy can make somebody extremely self-centered. The Luciferian purpose is to create reason within man. The left-hand path is affiliated with left-brain thinking. And too much of that can be destructive to the parts of self that require compassion and creative expression. As I talk about in my interdimensionals video, we are either evolving in consciousness in brain and heart coherence, or we are devolving in one of two ways. We devolve within the mind, or we devolve within the heart space. So the left-hand path is the de-evolutionary path in the heart space. And when I say the heart, I mean compassion, the parts of self that are creative and loving and emotional. So this is why the Luciferian pathway is perceived in many traditional schools of thought as something extremely negative. But the truth is that there's light and good within everything, even the perceivingly bad. So when someone refers to the Luciferian agenda, they're referring to the increased development of reason over emotion, right? Putting the mind over heart primarily. And the thing is that they are yin and yang of each other. The mind needs the heart and the heart needs the mind to function. They are the masculine and feminine expressions of spirit. They gracefully dance with one another in order to create balance within you. So when you give rise to one over the other, it creates serious imbalance and can be destructive to self. And there is a very, very obvious agenda going on right now that is pushing this whole left-hand path, right? With the rise of scientism and materialism, and this whole, aliens created us agenda, there's no God, we were basically experiments, that is all affiliated with the left-hand path. That is taking reason and taking a kind of bastardized version of occult teachings and making them very materially scientific. There is no spirit involved in these teachings. It's very cold, it's very calculated, it's very computer-like. So this is why Lucifer is affiliated with the sun, because, and he's also affiliated with Venus, but traditionally Luciferian beings were known as sun gods, solar gods, because he is responsible, that essence is responsible for giving rise to reason, the last gift of man before we ascend. And that's the story of Lucifer too. He didn't get cast out of heaven. He willingly came down here with his free will, solar plexus chakra energy. He came down here with his free will to show humans that we could do the same, to give humans the gift of reason. And he cannot ascend until we ascend. We are meant to ascend with the Luciferian spark. But again, there is a balance that is required. And where it becomes evil, where it becomes the left-hand path is, and I don't want to say evil because I don't really want to scare anybody. You know what I mean? I'm not here to put out fear porn or anything like that. I don't think we should fear these concepts. I think we should embrace them and really give light and recognize where the truth is within these things that we're so afraid of. Because everything contains truth to some degree. The important thing here is recognizing that the left-hand path is simply an imbalance of reason over compassion, logic over emotion, right? That makes us very cold, calculated psychopaths. That is what is a result of this energy. A psychopathic being that completely is devoid of any emotion, of any compassion. And I talk about this in my interdimensionals video. So again, if you haven't seen my video on interdimensionals or the secret human origins, go ahead and check those out. They're in the description box below. I will also link them up here. So you're welcome to check those out whenever you would like. And this is going to be where I conclude my video on the sun and solar energy. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with anybody who you think would be interested in this topic. Feel free to check out my tarot readings where you can get 50% off your first reading when you use the code Empress. I also make personalized subliminal and affirmation tapes for manifestation. So if you want one of those, you can check them out on my website as well. I'm also running a promotion right now where if you sign up with your email, you will get a 20% off code that you can use on any affirmation or subliminal tape. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this video. I appreciate you all. I'm so thankful for every single one of you. Bye-bye.
That one you used to say back when we were young and dumb. Never thought I'd ever find a love like this. It's a kiss of the life we lived way back when we were young and dumb and free. Won't you please slow it down? 'Cause we've been going at this round after round. As much as I can take, taking every bit, babe, diving into your